Hi, my name is Terry Carter, and this recording is for HIUS 512, the American Revolution for Liberty University, and the topic for this discussion board is public history. Public history, I believe, is defined as how we as historians interact with the public at large. As historians, we read and we write and we teach history, but another very important part of doing history is preservation. And so I'm choosing to talk about one of my favorite organizations, and that is the APVA Preservation Virginia organization, APVA standing for the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities. We're just going to use Preservation Virginia. It was founded in 1889, and one of the first things it did was to buy the land on Jamestown Island, where the church and the graveyard and the Confederate earthworks were, in an effort to preserve those. In 1993, they partnered with the National Park Service to bring Dr. William Kelso to find the original Jamestown fort on the island. That has now blossomed into what we know as Jamestown Discovery. And that is one of the gems of the Park Service. If you have not checked them out, please do. They have an ongoing archaeological work. This spring, they performed an excavation in the church and found burials of individuals from the earliest days of the colony. They have excellent classroom resources and teacher opportunities as well. For many years, the method of Preservation Virginia was to purchase properties for preservation, and they still manage a few properties like Bacon's Castle in Surry County, which was purchased in 1972, the John Marshall House in Richmond, Virginia, and Patrick Henry's Scotchtown. Now, their method is to preserve without ownership. They base their work on a belief in the power of community engagement. To this end, they offer advice on best preservation practices and craftsman recommendations. One project they have worked on in an advisory role was a plan for the preservation of the historic area of Shockoe Bottom in Richmond. During the years from 1830 to the end of slavery, the area of Shockoe Bottom was notorious as a center of the slave trade. In terms of volume, it was second only to New Orleans, and it was the hub of the slave trade on the East Coast. Most of the area now lies under Interstate 95. But for the last decade, there has been a move to revitalize and rebuild Shockoe Bottom, especially with the expansion of Virginia Commonwealth University. At one point during a construction, a portion of the slave burial ground was found. There is a great deal of concern about balancing economic growth, affordable housing, and maintaining the historical narrative of the area. Preservation Virginia participated in a study to try to find a solution. Another endeavor is the hunt to locate and preserve the history of the Rosenwald schools. Julius Rosenwald was a president of the Sears Roebuck Company at the turn of the 20th century. At this time, schools were segregated, and there were few, if any, educational opportunities for people of color, especially in the rural South. He used a part of his fortune to open schools in rural areas of the South for people of color. For the classroom teacher, Preservation Virginia has videos about their work at Bacon's Castle, at the John Marshall House. They have a video concerning the conservation of a letter from George Washington to John Marshall. They have a blog that can keep you up to date on the things that they're working on. And every year they publish a list of the 20 most endangered places in Virginia. If there's one near you, have students research it and find out what is needed and how they could work to preserve and reuse the building for their community. They could create a documentary film about it. If there's not one in your community, have the students make a list of the most endangered places in their community. You can submit an inquiry about them at the Preservation Virginia website. I want to end with their mission statement. Our mission is to make Virginia's communities and historic places of memory stronger, more vital, and economically sustainable through preservation, education, and advocacy. We envision a Virginia where historic preservation is an integral part of everyone's life. Thank you.